Hello everybody and welcome to round 6 of the Tail Racing Ring Runners here in Season 10. It is time for radical SR8 action here on the longest of our layouts here available at the Nurburgring Nordschleife on a very miserable day, I've got to say, not in real life, I've got to say, but in the sim. My goodness, it's dark out there, gloomy and foggy here in this season. So let's have a look at the starting grid here for this race, starting with Ewan, who's on the front ahead of Corey Stas, with Dean Dilson, Scott Sadler on row 2. The newly promoted pro driver, of course, Scott Sadler. Dan Kosick just in behind, a promoted pro driver in the last couple of seasons as well. Tim Watchout, who is one of two drivers in the AM class who's actually set a time this time round. Anthony Solomon alongside him, with Jason Hightower starting the best of those who didn't qualify. Dave Mull, Nightfeather, Pat Meesh, then Stephen Johnson and John Amico to round out the field here in the SR8, along with Dylan Hessling, actually, who's at the back end of the field. But Jason Hightower is going for 6 in a row through a number of different cars. He's been absolutely dominant so far this season. He's going to continue that form, and he's going to have to do it all the way from the midfield here today.
Yeah, definitely as well. Welcome, by the way, Mr. O'Leary, as well. It's our beautiful selves here again doing this one. It's going to be very, very interesting now as well, because you are right. It's Hightower's 6 in a row. Never been done before. And is it going to be done here as well? But we are back in the SR8s. Going to be a different kettle of fish. We'll have to see how he gets on.
Certainly is, although in the multiple different kettles of fish we've had so far, he's been very good in the different categories of car.
Oh, blimey.
We're going to have some difficulties here today.
Hey, that is
not vision, is it? We're going to have to keep the cameras close to the cars, otherwise we're not going to see what's happening here. I don't actually think it affects the drivers too much in iRacing, even though we do get these very foggy conditions at times. Actually, when you're driving, it just prevents your field of vision, right up the road. You don't need to see normally you'd see the Bilsine Bridge at this stage, but even though they can't see it, you don't need to see it yet. The fog stays far enough away, I feel, in iRacing for it not really to have an effect, as opposed to some games I've played in the past where it really does take an effect. I don't think it does, to be honest, in iRacing as much as it maybe should.
No, you called it a game. Naughty man as well. But yeah, you are right.
No, I mean other games. This is not a game, but other games,
Oh, don't try and back out of it now, Mr. O'Leary. You've done it, and that was the end of it. Called it a game. To be fair, mate, you could speak to a 7K rating Scotsman who will also tell you it's a game. So,
It's a game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. There's nothing that's going to combat real life, is there, like being actually in the car. So, whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's, there we go. I don't know why that's such a discussion, to be honest. But anyway, they're just making their way through the final corners now and getting themselves ready for the race. And Dylan Hessling has taken a bit of a while to get up to speed and join the pack, and he has done now. But the first of 4 laps, we're almost ready to get underway here at the halfway point of our season, which is where we'll be at the end of this round, as we go on with round 6 of the Tail Racing Ring Runners here from the combined longest layout here at the Nurburgring Nordschleife. It is a long hold for Ewan Crowd here as he works his way up towards the line after that pole position lap in qualifying. He finally gets underway. A bit of restlessness further back in the pack, and who can blame them as well, because that was a very long hold indeed. As they get down towards turn number 1 now, who is going to be late enough on the brakes and who is going to be making the moves here? It's Snap on the outside. Oh, it's contacted towards turn 1, and even more. Sadler and Kosick, the 2 AM champions of the last 2 seasons in a row, have got contact down in towards turn 1.
There wasn't contact. Kosick literally locked his brakes up, spun the car. The SR8 went no, and decided to come round, and then he was facing the wrong way. He's got nothing. Oh, there's more carnage in the back. Hightower.
Ow. Jason Hightower for the first time this season with trouble here at the Nurburgring as he waits for Kosick quite impatiently to get through. He's got no front end, neither has Scott Sadler. They're going to have a great battle, I think, with no front end between the two of them at the moment. But Jason Hightower with the first issue this season, he is not going to be keeping that 100% record.
No, definitely not. And both of these are going to have very cold feet. There we go. Something to look out for. Dave Mull, Pat Meesh, Anthony Solomon, John Amico, Stephen Johnson running side by side as well here with John Amico. Johnson does go through, but out in front. Krautfeld's opened up nearly a second over Dean Dills. Dills doing a stellar job. Stas in there in third. Watch out fourth. And then you've got the group of Mole Mish coming in behind him all at the same time. So lots of action further down, but I don't believe that was Scott Sadler's fault at the beginning. I think Dan Kosick locked the brakes.
You might be right. I wasn't really focusing on that car. I just saw it backwards when I looked at it. So yeah, it was at the other side of the road where I was looking, actually, where Dean Dutz and Scott Corey Stas were very late on the brakes on the outside line, trying to get past Devon Krautwald. In the end, none of them were able to. The front three are relatively close together, but the real battle is here in the second place for the AM class, as Tim Watchow has got off to a nice lead. Mace, Johnson and Solomon and John Amico all fighting here as they make their way onto the North Cypher for the first time and get on with completing their first lap. Johnson putting a lot of pressure on Mace here as they go onto the hats and back.
Yeah, he's climbing right in behind him at the moment. There is Johnson. They're going to be able to make... It's look very aggressive then. More aggressive than he probably needed to be. That was a very violent movement. Now Mish goes again. Johnson's going to set in behind him. And now it's the run up to Arenberg here as well. They're going to be maxing out, I think, round about 155, maybe 160, depending on what they've done with gearing here. Because don't forget, they are all open setups. So they do have the option to change things. And that normally becomes prevalent when we go on to the likes of the dot and the hoe for the first lap. We really do kind of see who's got low downforce, who's got high downforce, who's got low gearing, high gearing. So we're going to find out really there. But Johnson managed to close up, but not a lot.
Not really very much. Oh, as he braked quite late for Arenberg, and that's a nice line through the right-hander. He's going to have a run down here as they get towards the Fuchs Row. But where's he going to go with it? He's got really no options here. He looks left, he looks right again. And he cannot get through on the way towards Adnan Frost this time round. Pat Mace stays in front in this sixth place ahead of Stephen Johnson. And oh dear, that was close again as they get on the brakes there for Adnan Frost itself. Close between these two, but Stephen Johnson stuck behind for now.
Oh no, he got it wrong. Got it wrong coming out the exit of Adnan Forest. That's going to give Mish a little bit of an opening here. He could just breathe a little bit. He's got that 3-temp gap. You can see Diltz closing back into Krautfeld. 7-temp. Stas is also in there. Watch out. Hightower's 6 in a row. He's gone out the window, and that's due to the fact he's got literally his feet hanging out the front of the car. You can see they're right up, and Sadler is in exactly the same boat, and poor old Dylan Hesslink a little bit further down. But Mish and Johnson not leaving each other alone.
They absolutely aren't. This is the primary battle that we've seen so far today. None of the other battles are quite as close as this one as they get on the brakes for Versyphon. The corner, which is claimed about everybody this season, for whatever reason. There's something weird going on this season at this corner. I'm convinced of it, but not this time round. They all get away with it. Hightower, by the way, is still making moves despite the fact he's got no front end. He's now well clear of Scott Sadler, and he is on the back now of Dan Kosick, a bit further behind. Look at that. That's a ridiculous sight.
It's in the wall.
And John Amico's in the wall, and maybe he's going to join them with no front end.
Yep. Oh, whoa. Man, Hightower was aggressive. Dude, he was giving him no room. Amico's still got his front end. I don't know how, but...
Oh, wow. That's
yeah, it's all gone. That's it. Hightower's gone through.
Well, this is remarkable. Jason Hightower is out of the running for the lead here. These two are more likely to win from here. And it's contact! And Dean Diltz is in the wall at the muck curve. It's not going to give them too much damage by the looks of things. They're going to bring all sorts of mud onto the circuit, by the way, which is not ideal. But that was Diltz in the wall, and that could have been a whole lot worse.
Oh, bro, he could have been gone. That could have been horrendous. If he'd have bounced off that barrier the wrong way, he would have been round and out and spinning and everything, and he just would have been all completely wrong here. Kosick's trying to keep up with Hightower. Hightower's trying to keep up with Mr. Anthony Solomon. And at the same time, so they're moving on there. But yeah, that could have been horrendous for Dean Diltz. But Stephen Johnson has now got past Pat Mish and has managed to get the job done. So he's moving on. John Amico jumped back to pit lane.
He has. That is a shame for John Amico. Out to the back of the field now. Have to take that very long tow here on the North Cyphers. Hightower gets past Solomon now for 8th position. He is recovering positions, is Jason Hightower, again and again, and Solomon's the one who goes backwards. Kozik is going to be next in line to try and do that as well. I have a feeling here that Hightower is not going to pit here at the end of this lap. He's just going to carry on. He's just got off the road there, only a little bit wide, bringing some more mud onto the circuit. He seems somehow he's got away with having no front end here.
Yeah, he does at the moment. But then again, I suppose that he's going to have understeer like that, right? We know that's going to happen. But generally, I think his steering looks fairly okay, to be fair. He can cope with it. Depends on what his top speed is in conjunction with Anthony Solomon behind him, really.
Yeah, I think his top speed might be the damaged part, but surely he's... Well, there's got to be a damaged part. It's not in the corners, clearly. He's still going fine. But maybe it is going to be in a straight line. He's going to have no one around him, though, to really mark that against. Watchow and Johnson now nose to tail. Tim Watchow got off to a very good start of this race, but he's been pegged back now by Johnson, who is now in the slipstream. And we're going to see the Sr8's in action for the first time down the Dottingham here as he gets through the small carousel. Let's see what the slipstream gain is here as we look at the miles per hour on the right-hand side of picture. You could well see Stephen Johnson on his way past here, but he's coming from quite a long way back, and he's going to hope that there's some good straight line speed for that car.
Oh, dude, look at that. Started out nearly 7 tenths. He's now down below 5, 5.5, 5.4. Oh, man, it is coming down quite a lot here. I have to put the camera right in. 4 tenths. Could be alongside him by the time he gets to Bilston here. Then again, has he got anything left in that car to give? I don't think he has. Pulled out. There we go. He might get him at the right point here.
And he is alongside and through. That's quite well timed in the end. I think he probably thought he was too... I would have said he's probably too far back at the beginning, but no, he's done all right. Sadler and Solomon, meanwhile, battle away for 10th. And Sadler has not got the straight line speed that maybe he was hoping for here. Hightower has carried on. He has not decided to pit in, and Sadler might well do the same here because he's got decent speed, even despite missing that front end. They both seem to have gotten away without any significant damage. And so Hightower and Sadler will continue with the rest of the race without a front end.
The weirdest thing for me is Solomon did not have the speed to get past Sadler, who's only got 3/4 of a car. That, for me, just seems a little bit confusing.
Well, I think, again, it comes down to the fact that it's the actual damage that you can see is just not affecting them, really.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A little bit strange, but there we go. Maybe it's different, obviously, in downforce and everything else at the same time. So, whoa, where are you going, John? Anthony there. So nearly went off the side of the circuit. But, yeah. And now Solomon's lost a bit of time in there as well. It's one of these where it's again the same thing. We've got that faster model car. Don't get me wrong, they're not as fast as, you know, the GT3s or whatever like that, but they're not close together again. You know, this is the only closest battle we've got happening at the moment, and that's Watchow and Stephen Johnson.
Yep, they are battling away for 5th position, sorry. More importantly, for the AM Championship lead. Well, not the championship lead, sorry, race lead in this race, and they seem pretty well matched. Johnson getting through towards the back end of that long back straight last time around. However, despite the fact I thought he was going to be able to pull away, he's not been able to just for the moment. Pat Macy's not that far behind either, only 1.2 seconds further behind. A bit of a defensive line almost taken by Johnson there, a narrower line certainly. And now, as he gets onto the Dottingham, he starts the North-Side, sorry. He gets over a second, and Tim Watchow with a bad run onto this section. He now is being drawn in by Pat Mace as Scott Sadler has got off the road.
Yeah, unfortunately, Scott's down the order. He's made another little bit of a mistake. We'll have a look back at that one at the end, of course. It looks like he's just coming in. Yeah, just coming in. I can guarantee it's probably the last chicane off the Grand Prix circuit. He's gone and made a boo-boo. But now we've got Watchow. It's being chased down by Pat Misch at a rate that he really probably doesn't want him to be.
Yeah. It's big pressure now for Watchow all of a sudden. And you can see the looming Pat Misch here just in the background trying to get his way past. Now onto the straight. Well, not straight, but the long flat out section, I should say, between here and the Flugplatz and Schwedenkreuz, and then in the late braking at Arenberg corner as well. Just a dab of the brakes there before they go over the top of the hill for Tim Watchow, and a look to the inside from Pat Mace. But again, this is the problem that Johnson had. You can be as close as you want here, coming down this part of the circuit, but you're just not going to be able to get your way past.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's got to find a moment where he's quicker if he's quicker in certain corners. That's going to be the problem here. For Mish, he needs to make sure he's quick, and now Forest is not really the place to do it. Don't do it there. Could he get the run out of Brunchen, do we think? Oh, he doesn't have to.
Well, that was easy. And there's another front bumper missing. Oh, and there comes another one with a front bumper missing. Hightower skips around him, and that might be the end of Tim Watchow. No, he's going to reverse himself. What is he doing there? It's quite aggressive. He has got damage. He's got front right damage, actually. That's the biggest damage we've seen of anyone so far today, and he is going to be towing to pit lane.
Yep, he's got no steering on that one either. So unfortunately for Tim Watchow, he's going to have to come back. But I think he just hit the curb and then went on the rotation with it, and that was kind of the end of it. Now, really, in hindsight, it's probably not good for us because that separated the closest battle we did have, and everybody else is a little bit more spread out. But what that does allow us to do is talk about what's coming up next time, Mr. O'Leary. We've got the Pro Trucks. I am looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a very exciting 7th round of our championship, the Pro 2 Light Trucks. On the North side, you won't be surprised to learn it's just the shortened version, not the Grand Prix circuit involved in that one. You won't be surprised to learn, and that is going to be very fun indeed. As we saw in the street stocks, and as we've seen in these last 2 weeks, cars that are more likely to go around this circuit in real life, like the Sr8's and like the Porsche Cups last week, are seeming to provide less good racing than the really strange cars that we're very glad to have this season. But they are strange cars, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think, to be fair, the slower the car, the better the racing. I don't feel that's really been in question. It's how it's always seems to have been and how we've always seen. You know, like, look at MX-5s, look at Formula Vs, look at the slower cars. They've all had great racing, the slower the cars they've been. And it's the same here, you know, with the P-Cups. They were spread out like this. You know, is the LMP2's going to be the same? Is the GT3's going to be the same? So I think I prefer slower car racing because it brings people in closer together.
It's very interesting that it's happened this way, because I can't say it's been a trend that I've noticed in the past in this series. It seems to have really come forward this season that has happened, and I can't quite really understand why. And you're right, we are going to have some opportunities in the next few weeks to really test that theory out a little bit further, or whether we're overreacting to the last 3 weeks, which is very possible. The week after next is the LMP2s, as you say. GT3s is the week after that. The Nissan ZX GTP car is the week after that, so that's a little bit strange again. A bit of a blast from the past, if you like. And then the TCRs before Duck Week in June. So we're going to really test out that theory in the next couple of weeks, I would say, because we've got 2 very different cars coming up, the Pro 2 Lights and the LMP2s. Although I'd say both cars probably are not used to coming around the North side particularly.
No, I think you're right. You know, the Pro 2 Lights are definitely not used to coming around here. And LMP2 might be the fact that somebody may have taken one for a run round the Nords on an open day for the fun of it, or exhibition day, that was the word I was looking for, like Red Bull do when they take the car to Bathurst or whatever, you know what I mean, like an exhibition. But other than that, probably they've never been around it before in their life. But I still believe that what we've got coming up can potentially deliver us great racing. But is it because of people's unfamiliarity, something like that, you know what I mean, with the cars? Is that why we've had closer racing in the street stocks, in some of the other cars, because they're more familiar with it?
Unfamiliarity, I think is the...
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I just couldn't get around the la-la-la-las at the end.
Yeah, basically said that anyway, it's fine.
Just a few more letters in there.
I can't think of any other theory, really, around it. So yeah, I'm happy to go along with that, but we'll find out next week when we do the Pro 2 Lights. Of course, Dan Kosick was closing in on Jason Hightower there. We caught a brief glimpse of him in the last couple of moments, but the gap's back out to a second again here. Kosick does have his car still together, and Jason Hightower doesn't, and that might be just preventing him from going as fast in a straight line as he really needs to here. He's getting really reeled in now, and I can't imagine that is all slipstream here that Dan Kosick is using to get past here for 7th place. But let's see, less than half a second now between the two of them. Look at this as they go in towards the final corners of this racetrack. Down on the brakes for De Seergarten. And Hightower now under a lot of pressure from Dan Kosick after that incident he had through the first part of this race. Hightower's going to continue on as they go past the halfway mark of this race. He continues on, and I think that is the right call, but he's going to be patched by Kosick here, I'd imagine, in the next few laps.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think it might even be one lap here, Mr. O'Leary. I don't think it's going to be a few. I think Kosick's going to sweep through and maybe get him before he goes into Nords, to be blatantly honest with you. But unfortunately, that's the problem where you've got damage, and that's what Hightower's got. So he might be able to hang on, but we're going to find out what Dan Kosick's got. However, he has lost a chunk of time going through 3 corners here.
That is the advantage of I think, for Hightower, is that actually through the corners that there's no impact at all, seemingly, on his car. It's only the driver who is making the difference, and as we know from this season so far, Hightower is a very strong driver, so I have a feeling this battle could be a bit yo-yo-y for the remainder of this race. Hightower through the corners, going to be fine because he's in control of that, but on the straights, Kosick's going to just roar back up to him again.
Yeah, because Kosick's going to have more pace than what he is going into there, because obviously, well, one of the reasons he's got a complete car. The others don't have a complete car, so I think at the moment, Hightower's just got to hope that he can keep moving away from Kosick as much as he possibly can, but I can't see it lasting, to be blatantly honest. I don't think he's going to be able to stay in front.
No, I have a feeling it could be short-lived. Yeah, we will find out as they continue on with this third lap now, and in towards the chicane at the end of the straight. And they come in towards the Nordschleife again. As Kosick just closes in there, that straight section just allowing him to get back to him again. And now the corners come, and Hightower gets away again. I have a feeling, though, they're both catching Pat Meesh here, and the target for both of them surely here has got to be finish inside the top 5, pick off the positions that he can get, because they're never going to get the race result that they were aiming for when they set out here today. However, they could salvage a top 5 if they race well in the final moments here.
Yeah, that's the thing, but you've got to unsettle this man or stop this fighting. And if they're going to try and work together, then that's what they've got to try and do. But it's always going to be difficult when you've got these two fighting out, and Hightower has got half a car. Kosick's got a full car but can't make the overtake. So it's kind of a catch-22 for both of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't catch Pat Meesh.
Yeah, it's entirely possible if they don't, actually. Certainly not a foregone conclusion here, this one, as they now get towards Swedenkreuz. And again, the same thing happening here for Dan Kosick. The ideal thing, really, for him is that the fact that he does have more straight line speed. You don't want it the other way around. When you're stuck behind and you're better through the corners, there's really nothing you can do with that. It's the straight line speed that you really need to capitalise on, and that Kosick is going to try and do that, I would imagine. The question here, I think, is going to be, where does he try and make this move? Is it going to happen on the fast left-hander, or is he going to have to wait all the way to the very end of this lap, which feels like a very long way away?
He might be able to get him out of brunching up into the carousel, but we'll have to find out. I think that's the thing for this. It's all going to be ifs, whats, buts and maybes, and where he's going to be able to get him. He needs a run. We know that. He needs the distance for obviously being able to close the gap, but say, if he closes it and they fight, Misha's gone. But if he don't close it and they still don't catch Mish, then he's wasted a lap and a half to try and fight with him.
Yeah. So it's a difficult situation for him to try and navigate right now, as Scott Sadler closes on Solomon as well, by the way. That's a second and a half. So a couple of passes maybe on the way in the next couple of laps. I think for the season and for the other contenders in this championship, this has been a very much needed race, actually. For the likes of Krautwald and Stas, who look like they're going to finish 1 and 2 at the end of this race, having Hightower finish down the order and then pick up lots of points over him is a real positive, I think, for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring the championship back together. I think, I'd say back together. They're not going to be far apart, Within that sort of 25, 30 point range, I think it's probably going to be close. What has Solomon been up to here? Because that was a heck of an easy overtake from Sadler. Considering Sadler's got his feet pointing out the bottom. So I've marked that, and we'll have a look back and see why that one took place. But I think for these guys, they need as many points as they can get. They need Hightower down as far as he will possibly go. And they're probably not being vindictive about it. They're not sitting there going, oh, good, he's all the way down there. But you kind of are secretly smiling on your face.
Yeah. And they won't be making that public, obviously, but they will be pleased to see that. It's always the weird thing, isn't it, when you're in a championship battle with someone? You obviously never try and hope that somebody else crashes, but you're not going to be disappointed if they do in one of these races. But the problem they've got is that, imagine we apply the 3 drop weeks after this week, let's say. I know we don't do that yet because that'd be ludicrous. But after 6 rounds, Hightower would be dropping 2 race wins still. And so that's the problem for the others. The fact they've let him go on such a big run here, I say let him, he's raced very well. But, 5 in a row, it's going to take them weeks here to even get any sort of points gained, because every time he has a not race win, effectively a race win score gets added to his total. And that's a real problem for the rest of the season for them.
Yeah, in conjunction to the rest of them or what they're going to drop, Hightower is laughing. If he can make this his drop week of the whole season, then he is in prime position, bro. He is sat there absolutely chuckling his head off right about now. If this is where his drop week's going to be.
Yeah, he's in business as it stands. Absolutely fantastic start to the season for him. As he has a bit of an off day today. He will still keep the championship lead at the end of the day, and that's a bit of a run over the curb and the grass again. I get a slowdown for that, actually, but maybe he'll be able to clear that without too much of a problem. You can see again through the corners, he is quicker. He pulls over a second, actually, over Dan Kosick. He's only 2 seconds behind Pat Mace now, but watch the gap come down on the long back straight. Has he got far enough away from Kosick here to stay in front of him is going to be the real question.
We're going to find out very, very shortly. No is the answer. Look at the time coming down on the left already. And they're not even on the dotting a hoe yet. Down to 7 temps, 8 temps. He gained about 2 temps, maybe 3 temps there. So for Dan Kosick, he's just got to keep going, doing what he's doing, and watch him close in. But again, as the great saying goes, one thing catching, another thing passing.
It is. As they work their way now through the right-hander and onto the long back straight again. It is Pat Mace who's the one getting drafted at the moment. That gap has come down in the final sector loads as we try and squint through the fog here, the mist, whatever you want to call it. Hightower not gaining, even in the slipstream. Have a look at that. That's very telling, isn't it? With the front end damage. Now, I guess we don't know how much of it is down to the damage and how much it is down to the setup, but it's very telling that even in the slipstream, he's not getting any closer there.
Yeah. That one little bit of damage he's got is affecting him massively. There's no objection. At the moment, he's like a parachute in the wind because he's got his feet hanging out. He's got no front end to put that air over the top of the car, and basically the air's going to go into it, hit his backrest, and basically he's going to slow him down. So at the moment, he's just a glorified parachute. But for him, the fact he's hanging on to that 5th place in class, 7th overall, that's kind of tell you how good of a driver he is.
Absolutely, it does, yeah. He's done a fantastic job so far here today to keep where he is in this race. And he currently holds on to 7th position in this one, just in behind Pat Mace. Side by side in the meantime as Dan Kosick tries to take advantage. If he could just get in front here and start to put Hightower off a little bit, then maybe he can have that 7th place by the end of the day. But there you go. There's the end of that. Dan Kosick goes for a spin coming out of turn 5.
Yeah, and that's put an end to that one. So there we go. Another battle has just gone wandering off around the wayside. Not a lot you can say about that, but, racing's racing, and he got it a little bit wrong.
He certainly did. And that leaves us with just Mace versus Hightower, if that indeed is going to be a battle to the end, as Evan Crowther continues to dominate here. This has been very, very dominant from him, I've got to say. Very Hightower-esque, actually, you could say, this race so far. So at lap 4, he gets onto the north side again, and all he's got to do is stay on the road from here.
Yep. He's just got to keep it out of the wall, to be honest. Hightower's now up behind Mish, again into the corners where he seems to be Hightower's thing. And if Pat can stay in front of him before they get onto Nords, I think Pat's going to be in a very prime position. Oh, we can't. That answers that one.
Well, that's it. I think Mace will have seen him coming and thought, you can go through there. That's fine. The only hope he's got from here is stay with him to the back straight, and then he can roar straight back past again. But it's going to be very difficult to stay with Jason Hightower here for the remainder of this lap, because there's a lot of corners coming up, and Hightower is still very quick through them, even if he does have a damaged car. Well,
it's shown there, isn't it? Hightower's 1.1 already, so it really does say a lot about how quick he is through the corners. Dan Kosick was close, but no cigar, unfortunately for him. Pat Misch definitely has not got the pace to stay with him. Hightower, 8 seconds back from Johnson. Johnson's best lap, 8:13. Hightower's 8:12. So that kind of tells you that he's not going to get close to Stephen Johnson here at this moment in time.
It's going to be too little too late in that battle. I think the only one is going to be the one we continue to follow here, with Mace getting a bit closer to Hightower. Another interesting thing, actually, is that we haven't talked about so far, is certainly in the AM class and the championship standings that we're going to have at the end of today. It's been a very topsy-turvy season so far. Stephen Johnson was able to lose some points in the Porsche Cups last time out, lost 5 to Pat Mace, but he's going to gain some of those back here today with this race. He also gained points on him in the street stocks and the LMP3s, and after losing in the first 2 weeks. So we talked about this before, but very much seems like it's going to be between Stephen Johnson and Pat Mace, but Johnson's going to retake the championship lead by the looks of things with this performance here in the SR8s.
Yeah, Johnson's done rather well, isn't he? Let's be real about it. And I think going into this, I didn't think it was very far away whatsoever. But I'd be interested to see how it comes out after this. I don't think there's going to be a massive difference, and I wouldn't be surprised Stephen Johnson is actually coming out of here leading this championship going into the last few rounds. But that's been another great fight, and I think, to be honest, with the fact that both championships are still relatively open, yes, we know Hightower's dominating pros, but another couple of bad weeks, and he could be in trouble. So I'm looking forward towards the rest of this. I think this could be an ending for the masses.
We will look forward to it, and I do find that quite often the AM Championship is a more exciting one. Having said that, last season's Pro Championship, overall championship, was very exciting indeed to watch, as they came into the final round. 4 drivers separated by just 3 points going into Duck Week, which, as we know, cannot be taken in terms of any drop weeks these seasons. As Stephen Johnson makes his way now down in towards Bergwerk. Looks like he's going to take this win and indeed take some points over Pat Mace as well at the end of this season. And up front, Evan Crottrod is going to take the win here as he enters the final sector. He's finally going to break the Jason Hightower winning streak, which is going to come to an end after so many weeks of domination from him, really.
Oh, you're a bit early. Dude, we've seen this before. Seen it before. I'd wait till he's on dot and go home before I declare him the winner, to be honest with you. But yeah,
it would be a massive surprise, though.
Oh, blatantly.
If he doesn't win.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it would be, but he's driven out of his skin. He's just got to make sure he can keep it on the race circuit, and that's it, really, to be honest. He can take it not nice and easy, but he can take it a little bit easier than he needs to.
Yep. And he might well do that here in the next few corners. He's got 8 seconds over Corey Stats, who also is going to be pleased with this result, considering the points deficit he's got coming into this round compared to some of the others. As we get on with this final lap. John Amico's the only driver, by the way, who is not going to finish by the looks of things. He's pitted in. He's decided he can't gain any more positions, and so he's decided to come into the pit lane. Tim Watchow looks like he's going to finish into 12th place, a couple of minutes behind the next car, actually, in the field. So that's a couple of points lost, unfortunately, for Tim Watchow. But he is quite through these final few corners again as well, as he completes lap number 4 It's been a quiet second half of the race, you've got to say, after a pretty lively start. A spin down in towards turn 1. The 5 in a row, Jason Hightower spinning around on lap 1 as well. Certainly a lot of drama through the first part of the race, not so much in the second half.
No, it's been a bit quiet basically through the second half, but yeah, the first half definitely gave us some drama and a half to take care of, and I think now it's all settled. It's been sort of settled for a lap and a little bit towards really, but we're going to find out here. I'm really apprehensive because I've seen Hightower crash at Tiergarten. I've got to be honest, on the final lap.
We have seen it before, so we'll just hold our horses for the moment. But it does seem to me that it is going to be a victory for Evan Krautwald. We will wait and call him across the line, of course, as he now makes his way down the straight and in towards the final couple of corners. It has been absolutely lights to flag domination from him. He's going to take all the points for leading the laps here and take them away from everybody else. And he's going to start to eat into Jason Hightower's championship lead as well, which all of these drivers certainly need to start doing as we get towards the halfway point in the season. Evan Krautwald is going to come over the line and take the victory in the Radical SR8 by a comfortable margin in the end. Nearly 8 seconds in front of Corey Stas here in this one after complete domination in this round of the championship. Further behind, Stephen Johnson is making his way down the back straight now and in towards the final couple of corners to win in the AM class. A very important AM victory for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons in the AMs. And I'll be interested to see how this one comes out after this. We'll show you the results or the results and the scores after this round. So the scores after this round will come up, or the current scores after this round will come up at the end. But Stephen Johnson there, great job from him. Hightower comes over the... hits the wall on the way through, but definitely does come over the line with Pat Misch in behind him as well. So great results from Jason Hightower, even though he did crash very early on.
Yep, he recovers 6th place at least, and I think Jason Hightower is going to be pleased with that. Dan Kosick can't quite get to Pat Misch at the end here, as expected, and the Sadler is going to be finishing just ahead of Solomon by the looks of things. Pretty comfortably towards the end. Let's have a look at the race results with Evan Krautwald winning here in the SR8s. Ahead of Corey Stas and Dean Dilts on the podium. Dave Mull 4th. Ahead of Stephen Johnson, who rounds out the top 5. Jason Hightower recovers to 6th after that early spin with Pat Misch just behind him. Dan Kosing and Scott Sadler, the last 2 AM champions, were 8th and 9th. Ahead of 3rd place in the AMs today, Anthony Solomon. It was Dylan Hessling, Tim Warshow, minutes apart from each other, with John Amico, the only driver not to finish the race.
Score.
Now let's have a look at the championship points after this race. Jason Hightower on the front with 27 points of an advantage over Dave Mull. And Dan Kosick a few points further back. 10 further back is Evan Krautwald, who's moved up to 4th. Ahead of Dave Hernandez, who wasn't here today. Corey Stas is still 6th, ahead of Dean Dilts and Scott Sadler. And then you get to those who weren't here today. And they've all stayed in their same positions, of course, after the SR8s. In the AM standing, Stephen Johnson has moved ahead now of Pat Misch by 5 points, with Tim Warshow in 3rd position. Anthony Solomon was 4th, and Steve Coubet, who's now been caught slightly by Dylan Hessling after today. John Amico, the only other driver to be here today, and he's in 8th place as a result, now ahead of Cody Whitaker, who is down to 9th in the championship standings this season. Let's have a look at some of the replays from the start. There aren't too many to run through, actually, from the SR8 here today, but there's some really big ones from the start of this race. Starting down in towards turn 1. We'll see if there was indeed no contact, and it was just a spin on Scott Sadler's self. Certainly was. I thought there was contact because I wasn't looking, but there you go. It was a complete solo spin in towards turn 1.
Yeah. And there goes, well, part of Hightower's nose heading off. And then everybody else coming in around him. Dan Kosick then goes and just bumps him nose on. But, that's basically what happened there. It was a little bit chaotic. And this was Hightower's incident once again.
So we didn't see this live. We saw it in the background. Got over the curb on the inside there at turn 5. And, wow, his nose just came off. Did it? I don't think there was any contact with anyone there, but his nose just seemed to come off. Let's see if there actually was any contact.
It's already loose. Look at it bouncing around.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
So it is already loose, but yes, it did. Once it started spinning, he kind of spun it off the front of the nose. So there we go. For him.
He managed to spin it off the car, I guess. So, yeah, that's what happened to Hightower. Was there anything else? I'm not sure there was too much else, actually, from this one.
No, John Amico And his own little dramas. There was a couple bit of John's who sent himself back to pit lane.
Oh, whoa.
There you go.
That could have been worse.
Absolutely. It definitely could have been. Tim Watchow sent himself back to pit lane as well. I love that which we just caught the end of there. One of the things we did talk about was how Sadler got past John and Miko because the gap seemed to be closing. Oh, it wasn't any dramas. It was just a straightforward overtake. And then the last one was Dan Cossack's incident while he's chasing down Mr. Hightower.
Yeah, saw this live. He was trying to get past and pushing all he could, but just spun up the rear tyres. And in a very similar way to what Hightower did through turn 5, spun around out of the Mercedes arena. Well, that is it for the Radical SR8s. Not too many replays to run through, which is a good thing, I think, for all of these drivers. Shows that they've driven very well. But a pretty quiet second half of the race, you've got to say. But a number of stories throughout. Jason Hightower dropping down the field and only finishing 6th is one of them. And Evan Crowder becoming only the second winner this season in round 6.
Yeah, and then we've got Stephen Johnson taking a lead in the AMs. So there we go. Fair play. It's all been going off. But I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to the Pro 2 lights, though.
Yes, we are very much looking forward to the Pro 2 lights, and that'll be coming up next week, of course, and the Tower Racing Ring Runners for Season 10. Big thanks to everyone who's watched here tonight, of course, here in the Radical SR8. I've been Ewan alongside James Parfitt. Until we see you for those Pro 2 lights next week, it's goodbye for now.